Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your last best hope for conversation, a Babylon 5 podcast. Pressure. Yes, I am Jesse Jackson. I am driving the bus, driving the Starfire, I guess, Star Fury.
X-Wing?
Yeah, the X-Wing. Yes, they got. Joining me, as always, are two of my bestest, closest podcast friends, and I think outside of podcast as well. There is Lou.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? Greetings from Canada.
And Karen.
Hello. Greetings from Atlanta.
Yay. So we have gone through the pilot, and now we are on the first official episode of season 1 of Babylon 5. If a little behind the scenes, they had hoped to get after the pilot was filmed, they thought they would get a series order right away. They didn't. So it ended up being about a year and a half between when they filmed the pilot to the first episode. In Babylon 5 timeline, it's been 9 months since the pilot. So there's a lot to talk about. So let's start out, Karen, initial thoughts of this episode compared to general TV or the pilot. Yeah.
Way better than the pilot. I'll say that. It looks better. It felt better. The storyline seemed to be a little more fleshed out. Although I will say, within the episode, there were some sketchy parts, like, they weren't filled in. But again, with the first season, I'm always thinking, okay, that they have to set up a bunch of stuff. So, and I think that's the point here.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. One of the things that JMS said is that I believe it was Voyager, Paramount spent $23 million on the pilot, and he spent $2.3 million he said if he had $23 million, he could do a season and a half of Babylon 5.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Lou, how about you? Thoughts?
Yeah, a definite improvement over the pilot. It's not as a dramatic difference as the original Star Trek series where No Man Has Gone Before to the Man Trap. But there was some redesigns. Some of the sets look a little more realistic. I think the CNC got a little bit of a touch up. It's not drastically different, but it just looked a little bit better. But I'm still not really overall impressed with that set compared to other sets on the space station. The show still has the terrible font for the credits.
Okay.
It looks very videotapey.
Yes.
Very YouTube-y. So that hasn't changed. I like some of the new characters. And I agree with Karen. There are some real clunky parts. Second best favorite thing really stands out as an awkward scene. Yeah, there's lots of cool stuff. I still have some questions. Still don't really know where Babylon 5 is located. There's, Nixon had Watergate. Microsoft had Bill Gates. Babylon 5 might have jump gates because I'm still not sold on exactly how these things are working and why there's nobody monitoring them. Like tactically, any port of call is a very important location, and yet these things seem to be just wide open to whoever wants to use them, which I understand the vastness of space and blah, blah, blah. But even in Lord of the Rings, they had those poor dudes up in the mountains guarding those, those fire posts. But this doesn't seem to be regulated in any way, which I find baffling.
So there is a line where they talk about that freighter companies buy, passes to the jump gate in bulk and then resell them. Right. So I think of jump gates as unmanned toll booths that, how it used to be, there was always someone working the toll booth and you had to throw in your coins. But then once there became these, we call them toll tags here in DFW, but there's that automatic, they quit having, they started out with where there still would be a, only toll tag only, but there'd still be manual. And now it's reached the point where they just read your license plate and send you a bill when you go through the tag. So that's how I picture they are.
Right. I get that concept, but this seems this is like early days of space travel. Like a toll booth is something you get when everybody's got a car and can drive. And this is still, like early settler days. And so I'm looking at it from that kind of like a naval force. And plus these guys have all been through wars. So it's not like they're just going to, leave these things wide open for everybody to use. So I'm still not, and it seems to me that you can take a gate and go to a different gate than, so like you're not locked to jumping from one gate to another gate. You can go from one gate to any gate if you know what you're doing, apparently. Yeah. Pretty advanced technology. I don't know if this was built by any of the races that are being presented in the show, or if this was something left over from a previous lost civilization. So maybe I'm making them out of a no.
I think there are some things. I think of them, and I'm writing that down as in jump gates. I think of it as the interstate, and actually, they have been in space a while. This is because this is the fifth Babylon. Babylon station. Yep. So everyone has been in space for a pretty long time. So exploring the different worlds. So
is it a spoiler if you tell me who built these gates?
I do not know right offhand, so I'm going to let that is my note.
Okay.
And then we'll discover that. And right now, someone is yelling at their computer screen or their iPhone or Android phone, perhaps, saying, "Jesse, you idiot." And but I put that as a unanswered question for now that we will explore later.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
I want to say, I think the graphics are really good. I read about this episode a little bit. Everything was done on an Amiga. So, I mean, they're pretty good for the technology they're using.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with you about the fonts.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had not noticed that.
Oh, they're bad.
Yeah, but that's interesting. The Signs and Portents is the season 1 name. As I talked about last time, Lurker's Guide to Babylon 5 is a spoiler-free after you watch the episode, if you want to go there, because it talks about unanswered questions, it talks about notes, and at the bottom, which is really interesting, is JMS Speaks. And one of the things that J. Michael Stravinsky, he was an early adapter as a creator of the internet. And so he went to all these different forums back on AOL and Genesis, I guess, early. And so people would post questions that he would answer. Right. And so they take those answers that are non-spoilery and they post them on there. And so one of the things he talked about is there is a line from Harry Chapin, and if our future lies on the firing line, are we brave enough to see the signals and the signs? From a song, What This World Could Be. He said, just for thoughts. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay. The show takes place in February 2258. The reason that's important is it is not spoilery. Babylon 5 works in real time. So every season is a different year.
Okay.
So so this 5-year story takes over 5 years in real time.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. This was written by JMS. As we talked about, he does most of the writing. So I'll specifically bring it up when whether he's writing it or someone else. Okay. I thought we'd start out with the new characters.
Okay.
So we'll go around. Lou, what do you think of Lieutenant Commander Susan Ivanova, played by Claudia Christian?
Well, she's a very attractive woman. That's, I'm not going to make that sound creepy, I hope, but, she is. And
I agree.
it was surprising to see her replace the previous security
the second in command. Yes.
Second in command. So, I wasn't quite sure what was coming with her character, and then I kind of realized it's sort of because she was pretty stiff, very formal. But then, as you listen to her accent, I guess she was trying to do a Russian accent, and better than Walter Koenig's from Star Trek. She had, as the episode was revealed, she had an interesting background, and we'll probably get into that a bit later. So I really liked her right off the bat. She's she's no nonsense. She's business, but she doesn't stay like a robot. As the episode goes, you get to know her as a person, and you understand where she's coming from. So I thought she was really well done. I really liked her quite a bit.
Yeah, good. Karen, how about you?
Yeah, I agree. I like that she's like all business while she's working, and then when she's off, like she's got her hair down and she's relaxing and everything. I really want to know how she did that braid because I want to do it.
Yeah.
There is like a little braid at the beginning, and then it's a bigger, like a 3 braid strand. Mm-hmm. I got to try that. Anyway. Yeah. And I thought her accent seemed kind of Russian. So to my knowledge, now they're talking about like the president of Earth, right? So the whole Earth.
Yes.
So I'm thinking maybe the accents get muddled a little bit. And so I was thinking about that because of the Earth president and, how things are more amalgamated and all that. So I thought it was an interesting choice to me, very interesting to make her the way she was. And I really like her character so far.
Yeah, she is one of my favorite characters. In fact, I now, every time, every once in a while, Claudia Christian will be in 911. Mm-hmm. She plays like one of the police commanders as just as a very reoccurring character, and every time I'm just like so happy to see her. She's just one of my favorite. I love Ivanova as you'll go. She has some of the best quotes. That Russian JMS is actually from Russian descent, and so a lot of her almost pessimistic, that I'm expecting trouble and trouble's always going to be here, comes from that. Really, really interesting. I will echo both of you. She is a very attractive woman. And I did like the creative decision to have her kind of buttoned up with her hair up. Mm-hmm. And then when she's off, the hair is down. Is definitely a visual choice that mm-hmm. they made to kind of show the different characters. Yeah. I also think it's really interesting because we aren't sure at first why she's being so cold and we'll get to Talia Winters in a minute, but then we get the reveal of this whole backstory about why she feels that way about telepaths. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on that? And we'll go with you first, Karen.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that part of the episode, getting into the Psi Corps background, and it was a little shocking to me that this is how it's set up, that they either join, go to prison, or they get this treatment. And I knew the minute she said they get a treatment that there was something to do with that and her mother, because she had said at the beginning of the conversation, well, my mother was like you. And then they talk, and the telepath, this new telepath, she just was so matter of fact about it. Like, yeah, that's cool. I'm okay with that. Yeah. And it's not okay. To me, at least, that's not okay. Join or die, essentially. So yeah, I liked that we got that backstory. I appreciated that we found out immediately why there was that tension between the two. And I thought it was cool. And I think that conversation in the bar was very enlightening, and they played it really well.
It also, I never can remember the test, right? There's a sexism test where you have two female characters
The
having
Bechdel test.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And where it's not about a man. And in this case, it was
it passes.
About,
100%.
very much. Yeah. Lou, how about you? Thoughts on that storyline?
Yeah, I think Karen nailed it pretty well. I also just call back to the the choice in hairstyle, that her hair was loose and free, like that made her very vulnerable looking. So when she's telling that story, it really deepens the emotion of that scene. And the final bit of dialogue between the two of them, where the telepath Talia, I believe is her first name, says that she's she doesn't feel like a victim, and then Susanna responds that she says, "I don't know who I feel sadder for," or something to that effect. So like that she doesn't, that the telepath doesn't realize that she's a victim as well. Like Karen, I'm really intrigued as to where these 3 rules came up for the Psi Corps. It's kind of like the 3 rules of robotics or something like that.
Right.
There must have been some major I don't know, scandal or coup or political or whatever that took place that required such dramatic, stringent rules. So very interesting.
And also, I'd like to know, please don't say anything about it, Jesse, but I'd like to know if there's a way they can tell who a telepath is or not. Because obviously there's some way to tell, even if they're not, coming out.
And is this testing mandated?
Yeah.
Because we know how well that goes over nowadays. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I had questions, but I also thought that nailed down at least a background for it.
It's a good piece of storytelling because it answered questions and it also raised new questions, which is what you want in a story, to keep the viewer interested. Yeah.
I was going to say the exact same thing, right? Like that is one of, I think, the strengths of this series, and not alone just in it, but because we're talking about them, is that they answer the questions that give you more. They give you answers which leads to more questions, and not in a frustrating way, like, oh, that's interesting, but now then what?
Yeah.
Right.
Without answering, one of the things that I think you will enjoy is the Psi Corps continues to be a major plot line through the 5 seasons.
Good.
So you will learn more about them, and you will get more questions answered, and some great stories from that.
So they did kind of tread that line of using them as a convenience, because when she bumped into Londo, that I was going, okay, here we go.
Although it wasn't quite as overt as it was in the first episode or the pilot.
And I'm surprised, like, she was wearing gloves, and I guess his rage was so strong.
And she set that up, right? She said, normally I can't. And she wears a Psi Corps badge, which is mandatory. That isn't spoilery.
It looks like a Russian sickle.
Yeah, it almost is. But that is, you have to wear that if you're a Psi Corps, if you're a member of the Psi Corps, so that everyone knows. And then, they wear the gloves to try to limit the amount of casual discussions. She mentioned, did she not mention what P level she was?
5, I thought.
Yeah. So, so depending on how strong of a telepath you are, you rate that. In other words, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but the higher the number, the higher of a telepath you are.
Right. So. It's all interesting stuff, which, of course, the immediate question I have is there anybody that's hidden this talent and not letting anybody know about it? So will that have playing a role in the future? We'll see.
Londo made me wonder about that, because he apparently has at least a little bit of that. I mean, what is it, Centauri?
Yeah.
All Centauri have this vision at one point where they can see how they die. So does that mean all of them have just a tiny bit of telepathy, or,
Yeah.
so it makes me wonder, how that works.
Yeah. So I want to get back to our other new characters, but I think you mentioning that, I don't want us to forget that thing. So, Lou, any thoughts about that? Londo sharing that in the future, he has dreamed that he and Jakar will kill each other.
Right. Well, since I don't know the parameters of what Centaurian race is capable of, it's just, to me, it's just a story seed. I don't know how it would pay off if this is only a 5-year real-time show, as you just said. That's 20 years, that's 15 years past the end date of the show. So unless there's going to be some timey-wimey stuff, I don't know how that's going to play out. But it's definitely, an interesting story seed. So you've got this, it sets up this tension between these two characters, which is already pretty tense as,
it is pretty tense, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I need a little more context of the two races within the universe to fully get the full impact of what that statement is. But I mean, it's an obvious hook that is this going to be paid off at some point?
Yeah.
Yeah. So. I already get the feeling that the two races are, at war, essentially. From
the pilot, wasn't Centurion made slaves, or was it the other way around of the other?
No, the Jakar's people
were slaves.
The Narn were the Centaurian slaves.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So there's already that tension, but this, I thought, made it more personal. Like those two in particular have a beef with each other. And in this episode, Londo does try to subvert that vision that he has. He wants to kill Jakar. And so apparently that vision that they have can be subverted. If there's, if he thinks he can do it, then there must be a way you can do it. But of course he was stopped.
Yeah.
So
which gave us that great line, like, I guess I still have a date, and they were like, what? Just like, it doesn't matter, know?
Yeah, he hadn't told Garibaldi, he told
so let's we have two other new characters we need to discuss. So let's talk about Andrea Thompson as Talia Winters. Andrea Thompson, I recognize, obviously, in a timey-wimey way, I had already seen NYPD Blue, where she had starred as that detective. So seeing her in this, I was like, oh, wow, that's a face I recognize. So compared to Pat Tillman, who played Lita, so we got a new, a new telepath.
Right.
Any thoughts on this character?
Better actor. No offense to the other one, but as facts or subjectively, she sold the role much better. But her part was rather reactive in this episode, so I still don't have a true read on her, because she's basically trying to chase down Susanna the whole episode. So and her devotion to the Psi Corps, like, I'm almost getting the feeling that these operatives are kind of brainwashed because she's so accepting of her situation. And there seems to be an almost, and I guess because if you have a talent that you just take for granted, she's rather blasé about how her presence impacts people around her, or maybe she's learned to tune it out. I don't know. But if I knew that there was somebody beside me that could read my mind, I'd be, kind of defensive to say the least. So, there's a kind of naivety about her that, again, in the short time that I've seen her, so I need to see more of her character. But I just thought overall she presented herself better than the previous actor did. So.
Yep. I agree. I like that they set it up that she is actually a new character. Like she's new on the station, because she keeps trying to report in.
Yeah.
Because that's like a new thing. And also on a surface level, her hair is better.
Yeah, she does look very good. She is very striking with the long blonde hair and the black, almost all black.
Yeah, it's a timeless look. Whereas the other, unfortunately for the other actor, her hair was very cut in a very 80s.
Very 80s.
Yeah, so that was distracting. So this one is more timeless, so it's much easier to take. Yeah.
I do think it's a little bit of a hand wave that you have to report to the second in command, not the head of the, or not the
commander, right?
Yeah, not
the captain.
Or like a head of security. It would like make it more sense that you would have to report to the head of security versus the second in command. But it's a hand wave because you wanted those two characters to meet. I thought there was some nice scenes where there. I agree with the scene at the bar, sharing of that. And I do think you put the button on it. Talia Winters loves being a psychopath. She loves being a telepath. that is a Freudian slip, not anything.
Not a spoiler.
No, not a spoiler. And she loves the Psi Corps. That is her family, and she, in kind of, this is a bad analogy, but like, I'm a Notre Dame fired Irishman my whole life, right? Like I came from Notre Dame. I love Notre Dame. I bleed Notre Dame. It is everything about it. The Psi Corps to him is just everything. So really interesting setting up. All right. Once again, because this is timey-wimey, and I love, Stephen First,
Axelrod.
Yes. From so many shows.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see him as Veer Cotto, which is Londo's, aide. So thoughts on Stephen First?
I still cannot see him as anyone but the flounder from Animal.
Yes.
But I'm sure I'll get used to him in this role. He's much more serious than that in this, although sycophanty.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put that.
Yeah.
Whatever Londo says he agrees with. He gives his own opinion and then automatically he changes it if Londo, okay, yeah, sure, whatever you say. I agree. So is he there just to be like
sounding board?
Londo's sounding board, and also his yes man to reinforce that Londo's doing the right thing. Did Londo bring him in just to say, hey, there's another guy that agrees with me? And as you can see, he in this episode, he's really trying to sway people to his side. So that might be valuable to him to have that kind of sycophanty aid. I don't know how else to put it.
No, I think that's there. One of my favorite lines is from Sports Night, and the great Robert Gone, as Isaac shares that he's talking to Jeremy, and he tells him, he says, if you're dumb, you surround yourself with smart people. If you're smart, you surround yourself with smart people who disagree with you.
Yep.
At this point, Londo, because you notice Londo makes a comment, my vast staff, right? Like he's bitter that he is stuck on Babylon 5 and he has this one aide instead of this massive support staff. And he does not appear that impressed with Veer yet. So I think the Animal House persona helps kind of pre-sell you that, and he was also a character in St. Elsewhere, but that whole was like, well, maybe this guy isn't that good. Right. So you have that persona right away. And so far, this was his first episode as that character. And JMS says that he feels that they had not given him enough to play yet, and that he ends up calming down as a character a little bit.
I assumed.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Lou? Yes.
Yeah. I think he's a little bit of a victim of the Londo character in general, because for like the first for 80% of his appearances in the episode, he's like at the
Yeah.
Spinal Tap 11, which just drives me nuts. When somebody
Yes.
gets to a certain level and just stays there, it's just like a
Yeah.
like dude,
Yeah,
calm
I agree.
down. And all of a sudden he does it, and it just like, and you go, oh, thank God. Now we have some dramatic room to play with.
Yeah.
So Stephen First's character, and for me, he's seen elsewhere. So I know that he can act much better than what he was given to do. So he's basically, trying to withstand this onslaught of vitriol that's coming from Londo during most of his sequences. It'd be interesting if he ever gets scenes without Londo in there to see how he acts out of his presence. I would like to see that. But I'm looking forward to seeing more of that character because I loved him on St. Elsewhere. That's where I come from with him with St. Elsewhere. I really liked his character on that show. So that's pretty well it. And I'm just going to say it one more time, and I promise I won't bring this up again. But when you're designing a television show, you have to make it visually appealing. And I'm sorry, but those haircuts just drive me freaking nuts. Like they're like chicken tails. And I just keep thinking of the Three Stooges, and it's like so you're designing things. It's not. It just doesn't look good on TV or in anything. Like.
So this is minor spoilery.
Yeah.
But the higher the hair, the higher prestige you are in the Centauri world.
Right.
So that is the reason why they film that. So the higher you are in society, the higher. Like you notice, Veer's hair is not quite as high as Londo's.
Okay.
So you'll see that. So yes, it is. It does take some getting used to.
Yeah. Last time I'll talk about it. I promise.
No. I continue to talk about it.
You want.
Yeah. It's kind of.
I'm just saying from a production.
Yeah. No. I mean,
trying to attract viewers' perception.
No. I think that's a good point. And to bring it back, there reaches a point in Farscape where you forget that the puppets are puppets and they become characters to you.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good. That's why I would keep bringing it up so that you could go.
Sure.
I expect that.
I hope I get
hairstyle.
to that point, but I think it's going to take a while.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
But when it does happen, I will let you know.
Good. One of the other things I had to share that Peter Jurassic, who plays Londo, told in a interview that all he had to say was Mr. Garibaldi, and he was in character immediately.
Oh yeah.
He said just saying that phrase put him where he needed to be as the actor. I'm going to talk a little bit more, but the other new character we have is Delenn's new face. What the hell? Were you a little confused? Like, wait a minute, why does this character, who I assume is the same character, look totally different?
Sorry.
Well, not totally different.
Yeah.
But a little different.
Which character are we talking about? Sorry.
The lady, the girl with the.
Oh, the Mambari ambassador.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mira Furman.
Yeah, she wasn't in the episode long enough. I guess maybe I just didn't really jump out at me.
Okay.
She said a few things. I did notice that because I prefer this look.
Yes.
To the look and overall, I think the makeup was better because even Jakar looked a little better, and I thought he looked pretty good in the pilot episode.
And I just want to touch too on with the Centurions. I didn't notice it in the pilot. Maybe it was there, but they like the fangs, like the vampire fang thing. Was that?
Yeah.
Because sometimes when they talk, they really, accentuate their upper lip so that those fangs protrude. So I don't know if that's a point that's going to come up later in the series or something as well. Whether how they use them or not. But I'd be interested to see how they eat. But
yeah,
one of the things I really noticed about Londo in that same vein, not only the fangs, but he's got that kind of what is that called when they have a point, and it's way back here.
Widow's
the
Peak?
Point, I guess like a Dracula kind of look.
Oh, okay.
And he kind of talked like that too.
Yeah.
And the fangs and everything. So I was like, okay, is he a vampire?
Yeah. So I assume his makeup is a whole headpiece, whereas I think with Stephen First, they must have just done like a hairpiece because
I don't know. That's a good point. I do know that in later interviews, Peter Jurassic said he loved that he came up with whatever accent he wanted to use, and no one could tell him it was a bad accent because
Right.
there is no true,
Yeah.
I guess he has been too often in the past as an actor saying you do a horrible accent, like either Russian accent or something. So he was really happy not to do this one.
Right.
So one of the things that I don't know if you noticed, but, and I'm going to quote, this is directly from JMS. He was talking about some of the cast changing. And he says, what it does give me, which is kind of nice, is that the only two people to have any direct contact with a Vorlon have been transferred back to Earth, which plays wonderful into something sinister I kind of like to develop that the Earth Alliance is working on behind the scenes. So the Doctor is not there anymore. And, Lita, the telepath is there. So no one else. And we do get that scene where the commander goes to Kosh's room. Looks a little less like a zoo.
Yep.
I think
And there's
sometimes.
three masks now.
Budget
There
upgrade.
were 3 masks. Yes, budget upgrade. Yes. And, he talks to him behind a dressing wall. And then all of a sudden he blinks and all of a sudden he's in his environment suit.
Yeah.
So any thoughts on that scene? And Lou?
I thought it was probably, given the budgetary constraints of the show, a pretty creative way of handling an obviously alien life form. And again, the Medusan influence for me is very strong with that. So it was cool seeing the suit with nothing in it, and then it being animated. So that was pretty cool. But you have to wonder, what else is this creature capable of if it can, transport itself from one location to another like that? And I'll have to see more. But there's, could it go inside a person, I guess, instead of a suit? I don't know. So
interesting. Yeah.
So we'll have to see.
Okay.
Yeah, that was an interesting scene.
This might be a very obscure reference, but the thing I thought of first was the Golden Child, where the serpent woman has to be behind.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Nice.
I don't know. It's just the, behind the little screen thing. It reminded me of that.
Yeah.
I've seen the Golden Child a lot.
Okay.
So that's probably part of my deal. But I really appreciated, like Lou said, that it's not just someone with a headpiece. It's actually a really alien race. And it does alien things, and it has to live in a certain environment. And, so they're really defining that space is a varied and diverse place. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I did like the idea, and we talked about this last episode, that they spent a lot of money on makeup because all aliens look different.
Right.
There's a different. So as we get along, Kosh has some of the best dialogue. And in this episode, he had the great line, "They are alone. They are a dying people. We should let them pass." And Commander Sinclair says, "Who, the Narn or the Centauri?" And Kosh says, "Yes."
Yeah, his dialogue was a little obtuse at times. So I wasn't really sure if that was a communication issue or whatnot. So I don't know if he's going to be like a inscrutable oracle or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I looked at, like kind of a philosopher.
Yeah.
And maybe more advanced. And I put that in air quotes because, advanced in regards to who or what, I don't know, but it just seemed, it's like they put him in that role that he feels like he's more advanced.
Just from a pragmatic, practical standard, this is like, well, they are using CGI for spaceship effects, but for that particular character, a lot of that stuff would, like on a Star Trek episode nowadays, would be handled through computer graphics. So it must have been it was very ambitious of them to include a creature like this, which they're basically working through mostly practical effects. I imagine the production pressure when that creature was on set must have been intense. So I tipped my hat off to them because that it's not easy to pull off. So
Another fact I read about it
Yeah.
is that he couldn't fit through the doors.
Oh,
So
really?
you never
okay.
see, you never see him actually going through a door.
Yeah.
You just see him in
Do
that
we
particular
ever
place.
see him move? Actually, I don't know. I think we did, or did we?
In the first one, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he kind of glides.
Okay.
It reminds me of it's a puppet almost, right?
Yeah.
Like in Farscape, this
Yeah.
thing. And so and they established that this is an environmental suit because Vorlons can't exist in human
Right.
conditions.
Yep.
So they have that. All right. So basically, well, the storyline is actually a pretty simple one, right? The Narns are attacking a Centauri colony. They argue that it used to be us, used to be theirs. That the planet, the space station was Narn, then Centauri had taken it, and now they're trying to take it back. And also raiders are attacking ships. So Commander Ivanova and Commander Sinclair have two different kind of crises going on. Any thoughts on either storyline? I think they were very simple, but I think the purpose was to get, we need to figure out how these races interact with each other, and to kind of, this was, as many first episodes are, it's almost a mini pilot, right? Okay, you may not have seen the first one. Let me get you where we are and what's this world. Thoughts? And either one be first.
Yeah, I thought it was nice how they seemed similar. You know how you watch a show and there's parallel plots that are kind of similar? But I liked how they did it, and then they came together at the end. That the Raiders actually kind of had something to do with the Narn attacks, because he was feeding the information to Jakar, so that Jakar could prepare and have his little, oh well, haha,
Yes.
they want to be part of our colony, and so I did like how they came together at the end. Now, mind you, it wasn't the actual Raiders, right?
Right.
It was just the one selling the Narn cells to whoever.
Yeah.
So first of all, I liked how they set up that the Narn just is a mercenary weapons dealer.
Yes.
And also they set up how the Centauri and the Narn have kind of tried to change places as the aggressor and the attacked.
Yeah.
So they, over hundreds of years or whatever. So I think that there's a lot of setup there, but also a lot of character development. Like we see how Jakar works very clearly in this episode.
Yeah, I think it helps that he kind of has a reptile look. So, that dinosaur or snake looking, he is very, very aggressive. These two races do not like each other. And depending on your perspective, you can, I think they are wanting us to be a little more prone to liking the Narn, but at the same time, they're the aggressor right now. They're the ones that are trying to, it's wanting revenge almost. There is peace, and now they're like, no, not peace in our time. Very English in Ireland, just whatever rivals you want to do. It is not very nice to each other. Lou, any thoughts?
Yeah, like you said, the story was simple. I don't have enough context with the political machinations, because aren't they all there on that space station to keep the peace? Whereas this guy,
what it's supposed to be,
is actively involved in setting up this raid, so I don't really get it. Kind of like the title of the episode, "Midnight on the Firing Line." That didn't really pertain to any particular theme or thing within the episode. So I didn't really dig it, to be honest. It didn't make sense to me. I I understand that they're trying to show the animosity between these two races, and I think they should have dropped another thing about one being a slave to the other race. They had that in the pilot. They didn't have that in this episode. I thought that was something that they should have done. And they, as a cold open for a new series, that opening sequence attack on the space station, I had no skin in the game. I didn't know who I didn't know who that character was. I think that should have been established maybe a bit before. It wasn't my favorite. I don't think it was a strong opening. So I guess from that, I just never really dug that whole storyline. Okay. But everything else about the episode, I liked quite a bit. But I thought the Maltese Falcon of this episode was kind of just plopped in there without any real
the MacGuffin, right? It was just
the MacGuffin was kind of weak, I thought.
Yeah. How? What did you? Any thoughts on Commander Sinclair jumping into a?
Well, that's one of my beefs with the episode.
Okay, let's talk. Lou.
Garibaldi was really almost fridged this episode. Everything that he had to do was cringy, and I would have thought as the head of security, that I know this is kind of like a James T. Kirk scenario where he wants to lead the party. But I stopped myself but if you hadn't seen the pilot or the pilot movie, you wouldn't know it, that Sinclair's a war hero and he's a good pilot. So, I bought it on that aspect, but there should have been a beat between those two characters saying, look, this is why I'm doing. I know Garibaldi knows his history, so obviously, but you think he would have been still a little bent out of shape because that's his job. But I have to say, those spaceships of fighters that they have, those things are wicked cool. The way they sit in like a bomber, like a B-52 gunner thing, and then the way that the rockets on the X-wings can rotate and the ships spin around in that, I thought that was way cool.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Just one line even of Garibaldi saying, I can't really sanction you taking off in one of these ships. You're the commander. It's my job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then him saying, I got to overrule you. I'm a fighter pilot.
There should have been a bit of headbutting. There should have been a beat there.
Yeah.
How they played it out depends on how the character's history. But
I almost would have had Susan say, well, the commander, any chance he has a chance to fly a ship.
Something like that. Just a throwaway line.
That would have been great.
And I think that is the truth. And in fact, once again, in the notes about the episode, that is exactly what JMS says.
Oh, okay.
He says, I did this to try to establish that this guy is exactly how you put it, Lou. He is a warrior. Yeah. He is a fighter pilot at heart, and he will, any chance he has, he says, this isn't Picard, this isn't Kirk, this guy is at heart. Anytime he can fly a jet, he's going to, in military terms, and so I agree with you guys. I think that was after the fact, and it would have been very easy. Yeah. No matter, every way you say it would have worked, whether it's Garibaldi saying, hey, look, this is, I can't override you, but this is stupid.
Yeah, just 1 minute.
Yeah, I agree.
Dialogue would have fixed that.
And a total non sequitur. I liked his hair. I like Sinclair's haircut a lot better in this episode too.
Yeah. I think he did. I think he was less wooden this episode.
Yes.
I think he was a little better. I do like the idea that, in fact, the ending with Susan saying, Commander, we have a problem, kind of set the fact that this is shit's going down all the time at this place. I mean, there is just never a calm time.
And I think that was the whole point of that line, is to say, oh, again?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I don't know if you're going to touch on that, Jesse, but I'm really surprised at the whole political background story that's going on with this election and the president and that. I don't know if this, mixing politics into a show is always ambitious. I mean, The Expanse did it fantastically well. I don't know if Babylon 5 gets into the same kind of territory because, like with the Belters and the Earthers and The Expanse and that stuff was pretty powerful. So, but the re-election of the incumbent president, I don't. Was it Ivanova said that she didn't like the incumbent because of his chins or something like that, or I can't remember now.
He has no chin, and his vice president has multiple chins, which is a bad combination, something along that.
Yeah.
So but he's the one that was interacting with Sinclair, right? About, hey, you gotta
that was the
on that vote. Okay,
that was the senator. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So again, more politics.
Yeah.
But he was talking about the election.
Yes, he was.
Very timely.
Yes, it is very timely, and I will say, good on you, but I can't say anything more.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, and one more thing on the cast. I saw Bill Mumy in the credits, but I didn't see him in the episode. I was really bummed out.
Yes. Yes. He will appear soon.
Okay, cool.
So, yes.
Will Robinson, for anybody out there who's too young to know what I'm talking about.
And has I think had a really nice role.
Okay.
I also think some of the best scenes are Garibaldi and Londo. Like, cut to my wrist, cut my wrist. You don't have any arteries. What? Am I stupid?
Yeah. That was the only part of the episode was kind of what do you call that? Butler and maid kind of dialogue. Like says, well, that your race said that you did this,
exactly.
and a clerical error or whatever it was, blah blah blah. And so I'm going, okay, but it was a lot less in this episode than it was in the pilot. So
yes, it was.
So that was good.
The only really cringy part in the episode was definitely Garibaldi.
Garibaldi's second favorite thing. I'm afraid to find out what his first favorite thing is.
Yes.
Just no.
Yeah.
Is what I have to say about that. No, Duck Dodgers, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cartoons. I mean,
that was bad.
Just no. Yeah.
And his laughing was, oh God.
So and then I loved Len. I don't understand this cartoons, right?
Yeah.
And he is just loving.
Yeah.
And she can't figure out the popcorn.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And he's just laughing. And he has seen these Warner Brother cartoons all the time. I do think it was very funny that because it's a Warner Brother production, but they did have that the idea of how much he loves cartoons was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And very weird. Let's see. Anything else we need to talk about?
Let's check on my notes here.
I like that they set up the council.
Yes, that the idea, and I also love the idea that you can tell how much Sinclair and Ivanova trust each other, because he's like, is there things I'm supposed to do? Yes, there are, but unfortunately, you did not see me in time for me to tell you these things to do. So therefore, you can do what you need to do on this vote.
And she's super buttoned up, but still, she says, I got you, bro.
I have to wonder about that a little bit, because they just, Garibaldi says at the beginning of the episode, you're brand new. She doesn't even know the captain's routine, that he likes to take 10 minutes to go to that quiet spot. So that scene that you just mentioned, to me, that is something that would develop over time. And so for them to be at that level right off the bat, I struggle with that a little bit. I do like the scene, but I don't know that they've been together long enough if she doesn't really know him that well. So,
right, good, but is it plausible?
Yeah. And are they going to later tell us something about, did they have a past,
a
before
background?
This? Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. Again, that's a throwaway line that could have been helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it could have been. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
And I also like the mention of all the conflicts that have happened, the Battle of Britain, terrorists, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he said terrorists, and this was before 9/11.
Yes.
So again, it was seeing trouble in the world.
Yes.
And communicating that in a broad enough way that we could go back and fit things in that matched with that. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was, just for him to say terrorists.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I had one more thing, and this is kind of tied to the gates, but it's communications between various planets and that. That seems like it's almost instantaneous. So I assume they must have some sort of subspace radio, kind of like the Star Trek equivalent, but they never. I've never heard them use any particular term with it yet. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on that, how that's working out, because I don't know the volume of space that we're talking about either here yet. So I don't know if the Centurions are meant to be like Alpha Centauria. So that's like what, 4.2 light years away or something like that. Yeah. So, but then the Minbari, I don't know how far away they are, and the other race. So, so there's a lot of volume. And
we also see, we see Londo talking about how far out Ragesh 3 is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and that's a far away thing that, they don't even want to bother to go and help them because it's so far away. And they did have that, instant live connection with them. So
I also thought it was, it's very convenient that Londo has a nephew there, and that, but that's
storytelling.
And that gave him some extra motivation on, because he was guilty. Yes, the hand wave. But I thought that was nice. And then I thought it was very well done. It was very clear that his nephew was doing this
under stress,
out of, there was a gun pointed at his head, either literally or figuratively, and he had to do that.
It was a little oversold. They could have been a little more subtle with it, because we got to that point pretty quickly. But those sequences were, along with the Garibaldi, were the least favorite parts of the episode for me.
Yeah. Good. All right. Anything else we need to cover?
No. I just think in summary, I'm intrigued enough to keep watching. That's for sure. There's some interesting breadcrumbs that have been laid, and probably quite a few that I've missed. But I'm digging the show, and I just hope that the next episode Garibaldi's back on his game, because this one was not good for him.
Okay.
Yeah, he was my favorite character in the pilot movie, but in this he was not. Yeah. I think my favorite character was, what's her name, the second in command. I'm sorry, Suzanne. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, ratings. Karen.
I give it 7.5 privacy screens.
Nice. Lou?
I'm going to give it 7 Daffy Duck Dodgers.
Nice. Well, I like it a little bit more, but that's because this is like the third or fourth time I've seen the episode. I do agree that, we're doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
I also think it's worth noting that as... and I will quote JMS a lot when we discuss this. So if you are doing a drinking game, take a drink. But he said, I had whether it's Star Trek Deep Space Nine or Star Trek Voyager, they don't have to establish a whole world. That world's already there. This, you have to do that. So I like it a lot. I give it 8 out of 10 popcorn kernels.
Okay.
So nice. All right. Any final thoughts?
Nope.
I look forward to the next episode.
Yeah, no, this was fun. I hope our listeners are having fun along with us.
Yeah, I hope so too. If you want to reach out to us, Lou, how can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Lou W. Sytsma, SYTSMA, or at the Stephen King Podcast. And my YouTube channel is Lou's Reviews. So that should be easy enough to find. I've put up the first episode there from here, and I'm transferring my old Stephen King podcast over there as well. So I'll be looking at, doing reviews for more Stephen King stuff. He's got more books coming out this year. Hallelujah. And more movies and whatnot. Yeah. And, any other things that grab my interest, books, movies, video games. I'll be putting those reviews up there as well.
Awesome.
Good. And Karen?
I am at Oliveria everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, BookBub. At Oliveria, Aleveria. And there's a link in my bio there on Twitter to my blog. So again, that's where you can find me.
Good. Yeah.
Well, we covered the Farscape movie. So
yeah, and they're actually yes, we Crusade is I think definitely worth revisiting. There's a lot of stories behind that, and there's also Babylon 5 movies, which were done when they signed on with TNT. They gave them not only a 5th season, but they gave them the money for a series of movies. And there is a lot of debate on the very first movie is In the Beginning, which covers a lot of data that we are seeing now in the first season. And most people recommend you getting through at least the first couple of seasons before you watch the movie. So I will figure out when we do that in our timeline. JKLB5podcast@gmail.com if you want to email us, or you can send something to, I'm on at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. You can hear me talk about music on Set Lusting Bruce every other week. I just had, that'll come up in a few weeks, the guitarist for Jefferson Starship. He's been there since 2002. There is a new Imagine band with a new lead singer that Grace Slick has given her blessing to, and he was on. Very interesting. So I continue to talk music. Karen has been on there. I need to get Lou on there, and we could talk music for him sometime. But for now, reach out to us. Let us know. We are always looking for guest hosts to join us, whether you're a longtime Babylon 5 fan or if this is your first time around and want to join us in the rookie table. We're welcome to have it. So Karen, Lou, as always, I love visiting with you guys. This is so much fun.
Me too.
In 2 weeks, we will be talking about Soul Hunter. That is the next episode. So for now, take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.